Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast, the lowdown on Luke Ayling. And if you didn't know, where have you been? Boro have signed Luke Ayling on a 6-month loan deal from Leeds United. Boro's third loan deal of the season, our second from Leeds United as well. So given that Luke has spent over 7.5 years at Leeds United, I thought it'd only be best to speak with Martin from All Stats Army to find out a little bit more about Boro's new right back.
So, Luke Ayling, well, he's a player who's close to the hearts of most Leeds fans. He's been playing for us for a long time now, and he's been ever present. He's probably been playing a good 30 games a season for quite a lot of the seasons he's been with us, and for most of that he's been decent, and at his best, he was probably one of the best right backs in the Premier League in the season we first went up under Bielsa. That was in 2021, and he had some of the best progressive stats in the league for ball carrying, and just a lot higher than Trent Alexander-Arnold at one point. That tells you as much as you need to know, and he was name checked by Gareth Southgate. And the player that he is at right back, he likes to get forward, and he likes to combine with the central players and the wingers and do 1-2 passes and try to get down the line as much as he can. And that's a big part of the player that he is and why he was so essential to the way that we were playing under Bielsa, because we did a lot of build-up under the wide areas. So that meant that the right side was used a lot in that. And it was important that we had a player like Luke in that place. Some of his deficiencies, he's not the greatest 1v1 defender. He can get done quite easily with someone who's got a bit of pace and trickery, and that has got a bit worse as he's got older. He wasn't as bad the first couple of seasons in the Premier League, but then he slowly went downhill, and he's generally fine with most players he comes up against in the Championship, and I still do think that there is someone who will be able to get game time for you. He's just not being used by us, and he's not the sort of right back that we want under Daniel Farke for right back, because the way we are using our fullbacks at the moment, we have the left side who gets forward more, and that's Sam Byram, and on the right side we want the right back to sit a bit deeper and invert into midfield, and we've been using Archie Gray for that, as he's a midfielder. He's quite comfortable in central areas, so we don't really have a space for Luke, and it's a shame that he's going. I'll be sad to see him go, but it was natural that he was going to be going before long. His contract runs out at the end of this season. I think it's a good pickup for you for a 6-month loan, possibly for more than that if you choose to. And he will give a lot for the side, and he has got lots of energy, and I think you should get on with him. He's a good guy, and he's battled through a lot of things, especially a quite bad stutter. So if you do get him on, if there isn't any sort of interviews with him, expect to hear the odd stutter here and there, and he shines through it and still does his best to go on interviews as often as he can. But yeah, we'll all miss him here at Leeds, and I hope he continues on to have a great career for you guys or whoever else he goes to afterwards. Cheers.
So thanks for that, Martin. And All Stats on Leeds is a great podcast as well. So if you are looking to learn more about Leeds, that is probably the best podcast for you to look at. So Luke Ayling then, so he's had over 500 appearances in English football, and he started off at Arsenal as a academy graduate and then moved his way over to the Oval, and then has progressed from then. He's been at Leeds for over 7.5 years, and under different styles as well. So Bielsa, he was really looking forward to try and get the ball, use the wing backs, get the ball wide, and really use that overlap. And that's where, for me, I think he thrives. And we'll come to that in just a moment. But I think he's a player that looks really comfortable on the ball. I think you will probably see more in terms of he'll do a give and a goal rather than just trying to dribble forward. I think if we were to compare him to our other players that we currently have in this side, like Vandenberg, Smith, Dijksteel, and Ayling, you'll definitely see a heat map where Ayling definitely comes much higher up the pitch. And this is kind of what you would expect, because where Leeds were under Bielsa and where they've kind of been in previous managers, they do want their fullbacks to really bomb forward, and that's where Ayling really thrived. I think one big difference from what we have from Vandenberg to Ayling now when Rav does play at right back is that Rav is really reluctant to progress and to progress his position forward. He tends to come backwards, which sometimes makes Boro play themselves into trouble a little bit when they are playing out from the back. And don't get me wrong, I think Rav is a fantastic player. I just think he's just not as suited to right back as to what he would be centrally. I think centrally he's a much, much better player. When you compare him to, say, Smith and Dijksteel, these guys are much more, say, dribbly boys. You can definitely see that with Smith as well. He tends to have more of the progressive passes, and then also his progressive carries are better than Rav Vandenberg, because Rav Vandenberg's don't really exist in terms of progressive carries. He actually is one of the worst in the league for that. But for Dijksteel, that's where you tend to see someone who's a bit more of a dribbly player, where you see his progressive carries, successful take-ons, and touches in the attacking penalty area as well. So you tend to see Dijksteel as more of that dribbly right back. But when you look at Ayling, when you'll see his touches in the penalty box, and then also his progressive passes. So that means progressive receive. Sorry, so that basically means that he's always receiving it in areas which are areas where the ball is going forward. So you can definitely see why he's trying to do that. I think there's a really, really good clip of Ayling, I think, where we could get the best out of him, and it's a moment where Leeds lose actually 5-2 to Brentford, but I think it's a really good moment for him to show what he would bring if he was going forward. So what would happen is he would overlap his man, he gets his head up, whips the ball across, and then Leeds go on to score. And that in itself, for me, is what we'll probably see from Ayling, those combinations from where we've seen Isaiah Jones, Crooks, and also a fullback as well, who isn't afraid to get round his man, create a decoy, and create that space in that central area. I think that's where we'd really see those strengths from Ayling come in. He's definitely not a player who you want to come in centrally, and I think that's where Martin was absolutely spot on. He's definitely not a player who would want to come in and try and play through teams. He's definitely a player who will look to give it and go, get round his man, and try and lay the ball in the box, which I would say similarly to what Ryan Giles was like last year. No, I think there's chalk and cheese really when you come to Giles and Ayling in terms of crossing ability, getting the ball in the box, and offensively, I think Giles is just a much better player. However, I do think Ayling will give us that option in a different dimension from what we've had previously. And it just allows us to have some variation rather than just solely working the ball in the box, where this year we've been doing that quite a lot. We've become a very dribbly team in comparison to the previous season. So in terms of a person-wise as well, I think it's always good to look at a player off the pitch just as much as on it. Appreciate I don't know Luke very well at all. But in terms of what we've seen from their fans and what we've seen from the players, it looks like we've got a really good character in the team and in the changing room as well. And you can't never have enough of those people. A really positive person, and also it adds us a bit more leadership and also a bit more experience into the group as well. Previously a Leeds captain at one point, and also with the experience in the games that he's played, I think that just helps the younger players develop even further. I think when you look at Rav Vandenberg, who's just at the start of his career, he can take something from Ayling. Not everything. Don't take all of the information that he has, but you can always just take one thing, and that can help you develop your game. And I can find that being really useful for him. And then finally on that, I think it's just a case of now that he has his experience, Boro do gain a little bit more from that, and now we've went from 5th to 6th youngest team in the division as well. So the actual thoughts on the deal, personally, I'm actually quite happy with it. I think it's not a deal where it's going to rock the socks off our fans, and I don't expect it to. He's not like Aylinho or like one of the kids from Brazil or anything like that, what you'd love to see on Football Manager. I think it's a really sensible signing. I think it adds depth. It adds a different dimension to us going forward, and it also gives an opportunity for Rafa and Bow to go centrally as well. And you just see that when we have that depth, it's a little bit easier for us. We've been playing with injuries so far this season, and I just think Luke coming in the building is just helpful since Smith's out for the season, since Dijksteel's getting in and out of the squad with injuries, and also we don't have to play a Rav there at all and play him in his actual natural position. And you know what, for Luke as well, I actually think this is a really good opportunity for him because he's out of contract at Leeds in the summer. You know, he'd be a free agent then. And it's also an audition for us as well because we could potentially see Luke as a really good bit of business for us. You know, we've built that relationship and then we go on to purchase him in the summer. Do I see it happen? I'm not really sure. I do think Dijksteel maybe moved on in the summer. I think that Smith, you know, depending how bad his injury is, how long will that be? So he does add that cover. And also I do think Boro will go back into the market for another right back in the summer. But for right now, really good stopgap, really good audition for Luke to see if he actually fits the system and fits the club and the identity. It's just a good move all around for all parties. And I think it's just a really good, sensible transfer, I think. And if I was to rate this out of 5, everyone's favorite point of this. And with the last time I was by myself, I rated Lucas Engel a 5 out of 5 and got crucified initially for it. So I'm going to definitely tone it back for this one for sure. But saying that, Lucas is performing really well at the moment, and I still think Lucas will get better and better and better. But that is for another video. I think for Luke Ayling, I'm going to go for 3 out of 5. Sensible transfer. Really low risk for Boro, adds depth, good crossing, adds a different dimension to Boro's play. And I just think he'll keep adding to our Boro's creativity. So for me, I'd be fairly happy with it, to be honest. I think we've got a good character there in Luke Ayling, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he can do the business for us in the second half of the season as well. But for right now, this has been the lowdown on Luke Ayling, and that was all your Luke Ayling chatter in a pod. Up the Boro breakdown.